Okay, the last part of what we're going to do today is called simplify complex fraction. Simplify complex fractions. Okay, simplify complex fractions. And the reason that we're doing this today is it has a lot to do with the LCM, like what we just did. Okay, so complex fractions would be something like this. 3 over 4x minus 1 over 8x divided by 2 plus 1 over 12. So complex fractions, sometimes we also call them double-decker fractions. Okay, they have like 4 levels here. So in order to simplify these, we need to find the LCM for all the denominators. So find LCM for all denominators. Okay, so if you look at all the denominators, we have 4x, 8x, 12, and what's the denominator of this fraction? It's really a 1. Okay, so I want you to write down all the denominators. So 4x, 8x, 1, and 12. Now, these are not binomials, these are all monomials, so things that are attached by multiplication. Okay, so if I just look at the numbers, 4, 8, 1, and 12, what's the smallest number that 4, 8, 1, and 12 will all go into? Okay, let's think about this. Not 36, okay? What numbers do 4, 8, 1, and 12 all go into? What's the smallest number? 24. Okay, you have to know your multiplication facts real well here. Then I want you to look at the variables, the letters. What's the smallest letter that all of these go into? Just x. Okay, so I have to have, does 4x go into 24x? Yes. Does 8x go into 24x? Yes. Does 1? Yes. Does 12? Yes. Question, Haley. Okay, now, instead of getting common denominators here, what we want to do is eliminate all the denominators. Okay, so we want to multiply to eliminate denominators. Okay, so that means you're going to multiply 24x. I want you to write 24x next to every single part of this fraction. And write it next to the numerator. Okay, write it on the top. So you remember you're multiplying on the top. So multiply by all the tops. Then we can reduce. Okay, so what happens when you have 24x and a 4x? What reduces away? The x reduces, and 24 and 4 reduce to leave you what? 6. How is this 6 going to be attached to the 3? By multiplication. So let's go ahead and do that. So 6 times 3 gives you 18. Now let's go on to the next one. We still have a negative. If I have 8x and 24x, the x's will reduce each other away, and 8 and 24 reduce to give you what? 3. So 1 times 3 gives us 3. Keep going. This one, does anything cancel out with the bottom? No, so we just multiply. So 24x times 2 gives us what? 48x. Okay, still have a plus there. What can reduce away here? The 12 and the 24 reduce to become what? Just a 2. So what's left behind? 1 times x times 2 gives you what? 2x. Now look, this is a lot simpler, right? We eliminated that double-decker part of the fraction. So you can do this. 18 minus 3 gives you 15 over 48x plus 2x gives us what? 50x. Those can be combined, and then that can be reduced. What goes into both 15 and 50x? 5. So if you reduce that, we should get 3 over 10x. That is your answer. Okay, so we're trying to eliminate, for simplifying complex fractions, we are trying to eliminate the denominators. Okay, if for some reason not everything reduces, then you haven't multiplied by the right LCM. Okay, you want to get rid of the double-decker fraction part. Okay, let's try one more and then we'll be done. Number 6, same thing. I want you to simplify this complex fraction, 1 over 4, 1/4 minus 1 over x squared divided by 1/2 plus 1 over x. 1 over 4 minus 1 over x squared divided by 1 over 2 plus 1 over x. So if you look at the LCM, I want you to look at all these denominators. Okay, if you look at all these denominators, we have a 4, an x squared, a 2, and an x. First, look at the numbers. What's the smallest number that both of these would go into?
2.
A 4. Okay. If I multiplied by 2, is that going to cancel out a 4, Jajon? No. You're thinking of the least common. You're thinking of the least common denominator. Okay. So I do not want what's the smallest thing that goes into them. I want to figure out what's the smallest thing that would cancel them out. Okay. So you're thinking of the least common multiple. Excuse me. The greatest common. Anyways, sorry. Now you guys got my words all confused. So what's the smallest thing that 4 and 2 go into is a 4. What's the smallest thing that x squared and x will go into?
X squared.
X squared. So 4x squared is what we're going to multiply by. Okay, so multiply all the parts by 4x squared. Okay, so multiply all the parts by 4x squared. So write it next to every single part. Okay, so if you reduce, what happens when you have a 4x squared and a 1/4? What happens? What reduces? The 4 reduces. Okay, if you multiply by what's left behind, you got x squared minus, what happens when you have x squared and 4x squared? The x squareds go away, so it's just minus 4. You're just multiplying by 1. Say it again. We are going to have to factor, yes. In the denominator, what happens? The 2 is canceled out. Left behind is a 2. And in your last part, the x cancels out, and you're left behind with just 4x. So if you multiply this together, 2 times x squared is 2x squared. Plus 1 times 4 times x is 4x. Now you have to factor this. So what does x squared minus 4 factor to become? X plus 2 and x minus 2. And how can I factor this denominator? Take out a GCF of 2x, and what's left behind? X plus 2. Now I can reduce again. The x plus 2's will reduce each other away, and you get an answer of x minus 2 over 2x. Can any of that reduce?
No.
No, because the top is attached by a plus or minus. Okay, write down your homework assignment. Your homework, you're going to be working on worksheet 2. You're doing numbers 1 through 7. It's the whole thing in your worksheet. That's in your green worksheet booklet. You are also working out of the book on page 586. Okay, page 586. We're going to do numbers 3 through 31 odd. Please feel free to check your answers in the back of the book to make sure that you're on the right track. Okay, make sure you write that down. I will put up the book right now so that you can see it and get started.